Imagine a city, bustling streets, children laughing, life flowing through every corner, every alley. Then a flash, a blinding light, a wave of heat that melts steel and stone, the unimaginable force of an atomic bomb. In an instant, Hiroshima, Japan, vanishes. The city is reduced to ashes and rubble. The world enters the atomic age, a new era of unprecedented power and fear. At 8:15 a.m. on August 6, 1945, an American B-29 bomber, the Enola Gay, dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, detonated above the city center with unimaginable force. Buildings crumbled to dust, people vaporized, the heart of the city ceased to exist. The world watched in horror as news of the bombing spread. Shock and disbelief gripped nations. The sheer scale of the destruction was unlike anything ever seen. A city obliterated in seconds. The atomic bomb had unleashed a force of nature never before witnessed by humankind. A force that changed the course of history forever. The world had been at war for years, engulfed in a conflict that seemed to have no end in sight. A global conflict, World War II, consumed nations and continents, drawing in millions of soldiers and civilians alike. The Axis powers, led by Germany, Italy and Japan, fought against the Allied forces, including the United States, Great Britain and the Soviet Union, in a struggle for dominance. Japan, driven by militaristic ambitions and a desire for resources, had expanded its empire aggressively across Asia, leaving destruction in its wake. The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 brought the United States into the war against Japan, marking a turning point in the conflict. As the war dragged on, casualties mounted on both sides, with countless lives lost and families torn apart. The fighting intensified in the Pacific, with fierce battles fought from island to island, each one more brutal than the last. The world yearned for peace, but the path seemed distant and shrouded in darkness, as nations struggled to find a way to end the devastation and rebuild. The morning of August 6th dawned like any other in Hiroshima. People went about their daily routines. Children played in the streets, unaware of the shadow looming overhead. Then the flash, the blinding white light. The world turned upside down. The blast wave flattened everything in its path. Buildings collapsed. Trees ignited, the air filled with the screams of the dying and the stench of burning flesh. Those who survived the initial blast faced a living nightmare. Radiation sickness set in. Burns covered their bodies. Section 4, August 9th, 1945, Nagasaki. 3 days later, another American B-29 bomber boxcar took off from Tinian Island. Its target, Nagasaki. At 11:02 a.m., the plutonium bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, detonated over the city. The impact was just as devastating as in Hiroshima. Tens of thousands perished instantly. Section 5. The shadow of the bomb. The aftermath of the bombings was horrific. Hospitals overflowed with the injured and dying. Survivors searched desperately for loved ones amidst the rubble. The cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were reduced to smouldering ruins. The long-term effects of the bombs were even more insidious. Radiation poisoning claimed countless lives in the months and years that followed. Cancer rates soared. The psychological scars of the bombings ran deep. The world grappled with the implications of this new and terrible weapon. The atomic bomb had ushered in a new era, one defined by the potential for unimaginable destruction. Section 6. A legacy in ashes. The decision to use atomic bombs on Japan remains controversial to this day, sparking debates among historians, politicians, and the general public. Some argue that it was necessary to end the war quickly and save American lives, potentially preventing a prolonged and even more deadly conflict. Others believe it was a morally reprehensible act, a war crime that killed innocent civilians, leaving deep scars on the Japanese people and their land. The legacy of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is a sobering reminder of the destructive power of nuclear weapons, a power that can obliterate entire cities in an instant. The bombings serve as a stark warning to future generations, a warning that such weapons must never be used again under any circumstances. The world must learn from the horrors of the past and strive for a future free from the threat of nuclear annihilation, fostering global peace and understanding. The fate of humanity may depend on it, urging us to remember and act wisely for the sake of future generations.